Hello there. The other day I was trawling around YouTube and I saw part of a video by Marion Emberson, who was using loads and loads and loads of fabulous embossing powders. Well, I have embossing powders. I could set up a shop, I think. So I thought, what a brilliant idea. I'm going to be able to use some of my embossing powders. And this is the first card that I made. What she did, she put a whole variety of different embossing powders between some sheets of baking parchment. And then she heated with her heat tool. And when she pulled it apart, there was all sorts of things which you could peel off and use. This is what I used her technique for this one. And it looks really quite cratery and it's rough, and it just made me think of the moon, which is why I used this sentiment to the moon and back. That's sort of got me going. So I thought I'd make another one. And this was the next one I made. To attach this one to the card, I sprayed the back of it with some spray adhesive and just popped it onto the card. For this one, I peeled the melted embossing, I don't know what you call it once it's melted, but I peeled it off the parchment paper, popped it onto a card panel, and then heated it from the bottom with my heat gun, and it made it a very different texture. This one is quite rough, craggy, but this one is smooth and shiny, altogether different finish. And I thought, well, this is really interesting. What else could we do with this? So I have a thing about dies. I absolutely love die cutting. So I thought, what can I do with dies and embossing powders that would be a bit different? And so I came up with this card. Now, to make this card, I thought if I could try and emboss some of the die cut some of this stuff, but I don't know if the die machine would cut through it all. I did do one. What did I do with that? Here it is, a tiny little bit. I die cut a tiny bit of the first one, the one I used for the moon, with this little die here, and just use it to inlay. And it looks a bit dreary, so I popped a little bit of, what do you call it, crystal glaze on the top, just to shine it up. But I'm not too thrilled with that, but it set me thinking. So what I did the next time was I got some die cut. Now this is a Simon Says stamp die, I do believe, but it's actually an aperture die, not a frame die. By that I mean it would make a hole in a card front just where the flower is. But what I did, I got an additional die. This one is one of my set of press cut dies, which are so many, closely matched sizes that I could find one that was just a little bit bigger, taped it to it so I could cut out a die with a frame. It was easier to handle than having a whole panel. So there I have got two stacked, and I'm going to stack just one more. What I did with this one was to put some double-sided sheet on the back. So if I just take this off, I prefer, in fact, when I'm trying to align die cuts, I prefer to use a glue that's got a bit of maneuverability, but this is so intricate, this is just a bit of a shortcut. It doesn't actually allow you to align things quite so readily. I'm just going to go over this with a brayer just to stick the layers together. to make sure they're stuck. Okay, so now I've got three. I have got 3 layers of card to make. This is kind of like a mould. There's my die cut. I'll just put that in my die rod. I'll put it over there. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to tape it at the sides, just gently, to a piece of parchment, baking parchment, just so that I can keep it in the same position. I'm leaving this one here so you can see what I was left with after I did this process. I might be able to use that one again. I'm not absolutely sure. This doesn't want to stick terribly well. Put a bit of regular tape down just to hold it. There we go. Taking care not to go over the thing. Right, now what I'm going to do is this. I've got a variety of old embossing powders. These have been with me since I pretty much first started crafting in about 2007, and just shows how much you use of stuff. Don't use much at all. So I'm going to try and use some of that on this. So I'm going to start, this is the one I've already used. I will try and do it again, but I'll start with some of the yellow, which I just put around this area. So what I did was this. Okay. Right. Next, I believe I put a bit of red. This is plain red, crimson red. And I put some of that further out. I probably should have used some different colours, so I would have had a different overall effect, but it doesn't matter. There we go. That was red. Now I've got some twinkle red. This is just red tinsel, it's called. I mean, I don't suppose they make this anymore. This was by a company called Heat It Up. I don't know if they still make it, but it's just giving me a little bit of twinkle in there. That's that one. Now this one is called Enchanted Gold. Put a bit of this one on. Here we go. Around the edge. It is a way of using up embossing powders. I imagine all of us have got stuff that we've had for evermore, it seems. Right, now I'm going to put some black just in the centre. Right. Now, I don't know what the effect of this is going to be, I have to say. It's all a bit of an experiment. Here's another piece of baking parchment, which I am going to put over the top. And my iron is right here. I'm just going to iron over the top of this. Oops, that slipped. What a mistake. Oh, and again. Now, perhaps I should learn from that. Perhaps I should learn that I need to tape the top one down too. If I'd used the top and the bottom like a hinge, as Marion Emberson did for her other things, it might have been better. I can see it looks like there's a few gaps here. Let me just have a look. Looks like I could do with putting a bit more in, doesn't it? Let me put some more in. Some of it's come up. Let's have another, put a drop more in. I'll keep one side in at a time. Then hopefully we'll go back in the same place. Goodness me. Right. If I don't put the lid on this, I should probably do something nasty to it. Right, let's try that. Put it back down. Not quite melted there. Nor melted that side. It needs a bit more heat, I think. I've got this on the hottest it will go, but it's a very basic little iron, which I've had from when we used to have a caravan. There we go. Now, I'll leave that for now. Could have been better, I tell myself, but we can trim it a little bit. I've learnt a couple of lessons myself here, not to move the top layer. I could perhaps go over it again. Just trying to cool it down a little minute before I try and get it off the parchment. Here we go. But it is quite a dramatic effect, isn't it? There we go. Look at that. If I put it onto a piece of white. Oh, here's something. It is really interesting, isn't it? So the way I attached the one to my card, which I've lost for the minute. What have I done with it? Oh, here it is. What I did, this top panel, I just gently heated from underneath again, which fused the flower to the base card. But look at that. Isn't that interesting? I mean, I imagine you could use any... I rather like the jaggedy edges, don't you? Well, there you are. I don't know what we call this one. It's a kind of... There's still a lot of melted stuff in there. I might be able to take... put some more in and take another one. I will continue on my merry way and see where we get to. I think it could do with quite a bit more heating. But look at that. That is quite dramatic, isn't it? Okie dokie, there we go. There's another one for the arsenal. And as ever, thanks so much for watching.